Father, and the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. My name is Father Angelos Bishara. This is Deacon John Taufik. We are the clergy of the Archangel Raphael Coptic Church. And I'm interested to know from Deacon John how our church started.
Okay, the congregants of this church are predominantly from the church originally of Virgin Mary of Raleigh, North Carolina. About the year 2008, and particularly around March, we realized that the Virgin Mary Church in Raleigh was the only church within a circle of about 500 miles diameter from anywhere else, from any other Coptic church. The nearest one was Winston-Salem Church, was about 2 hours away, and it was kind of not very regular. And then the regular church was St. Mark's Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about 3 hours away from Raleigh. So when we looked at the families that were from the Chapel Hill area that went to Raleigh and commuted for over an hour, there were about 14 to 16 families who lived in Chapel Hill.
How many families were in Raleigh?
Raleigh at that time was about 225 families.
At St. Mary's?
At St. Mary's.
Okay.
So we thought about it, and then in July of that year, I got an opportunity to meet with Bishop David in Cedar Grove in New Jersey, who was at that time a papal, basically deputy in charge of this area. And we told him about the need for a church in Chapel Hill. He requested a Google map on which we marked the Church of Virgin Mary and the location or the distribution of the families of Chapel Hill around in the area. And he realized there was a need by virtue of the distance and the number of families.
What year was that?
That was July 2008.
Okay.
And then he said he would present the idea to His Holiness Pope Shenouda. We left it at that, and as time went by, I almost forgot about it, and I thought that he forgot about it. But in November 2008, he was visiting the Pope on his annual visit, and he called and asked for another copy of the map, since he had lost the original one. I had to make another one, and I emailed it to him, and I told him, hopefully this time we'll go through. And he took it to the Pope, and the minute the Pope Shenouda saw it, he did the sign of the cross on the map and said, "May the Lord build for himself a church in Chapel Hill." So, Bishop David told me to keep it to myself until it is announced in the Carrazzo. That announcement came in December 2008. I was skiing at that time and was notified that Abuna Mur'us Habib of Giza, who was the basically an assistant to the Bishop of Giza at that time, Muturani Giza and Badumadius. Yes. And he was in charge of a lot of churches there. So I was told he would be arriving on January 1st at JFK Airport, and I had to go and pick him up. So I had to shorten my trip, go to JFK Airport, pick up Abuna Mur'us Habib, and take him to see Bishop David, and drive all night to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We arrived early morning, January the 2nd. January the 3rd of 2009, we prayed our first liturgy. It was a Saturday at Trinity Lutheran in downtown Chapel Hill. It's still a dear place because we prayed at Trinity Lutheran for 2 months. And just as a footnote, I had known Abuna Mur'us Habib for years, since my childhood, from Giza, since I come myself from Giza. And he was a faithful servant there for many years.
But later Abuna Mur'us came and he served in this area.
He served in this area for like 9 months.
How many people were involved in the founding of the church?
The founding of the church was done by about 16 families.
16 families?
16
Are
families.
they all still in the church?
They're all in the church still.
That's great. Now, when we picked this location, this particular location for the church building, how did that come about?
We started, we actually, once we started praying in Trinity Lutheran, it was a great place to pray. They had another building, and they lent us their old building, and it was a beautiful building. However, we felt the need for a building of our own. The church was operating pretty much out of the trunk of a car. You have all the suitcases filled with all our needs and our lefefes and altar supplies and all that stuff. So we felt the need for our own church, and we made a decision that we would rent space and equip it like a church. And we rented a Class A office space near the South Point Mall. We had about 1,800 square feet, and in a span of a few days, we turned it into a church with an iconostasis and everything. It was very beautiful. And a couple of months later, we added an additional 2,000 square feet of space for Sunday school use. And we had a total of about 3,800 square feet of space for almost 4 years. And that's how the church operated, starting with 16 families and ending with about 80 families at the end of 2012.
I still hear stories, wonderful stories about the experience of the 16 families and the founding group in the mall. They speak of it as very, very warm, very inspiring and spiritual experience at the beginning.
Okay, the idea of the church was slightly interesting in the following sense. It was not just to start one more Coptic church. Even if the distance was a factor in making it happen, we wanted a church whose congregants are actually part of the action of the church.
Great.
Most Coptic churches are started by clergy, and the congregants are more or less spectators. We wanted a church where the congregants themselves have the desire to worship God and come. So during that time, people would come to everything. Mm-hmm. Our functions were not as numerous, but they were filled. So when it's Jonas Fast, everybody attends Jonas Fast's liturgies. When it is Pascha, everybody attends the Paschal services. That was the idea of having a community that wants to worship in the Coptic fashion, and they do it from the heart.
How many years you stayed at the mall?
Near 4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
And how many priests served in that time?
13.
13 priests.
13 priests.
Okay. I remember being invited by a member from the board, to come from Massachusetts, where I was ordained a priest in St. Mark and Natick. And they appeared to have a great need for a stable service. And I remember coming to the mall, to the church in the mall, on November 11, 2012. That was the first liturgy I prayed with the congregation of Archangel Raphael.
In the mall?
In the mall. That was my first liturgy in the area and the last liturgy in the mall.
Sure.
And after that, I came to this church, which was in 2012 being built. So it was finished and ready to pray on in November, and the permission was given to use it November 18th. So the week after. So actually I came 1 week and prayed in the mall, and the next week I prayed in this church. I remember the night when we came on Saturday night and we set up everything. We didn't have the pews yet. Everybody was here, very excited. We had the whole congregation going into the altar and setting up the altar, and we didn't have the holy plate, of course, and setting up, we didn't have the icons, we didn't have anything. But people were very, very excited, very excited. It's really an exciting thing for the birth of a new church building. And then after that, we started an established prayer. I remember praying the first liturgy with Abuna Bakhomis, who's a father of one of our congregants, and I prayed with him that liturgy, and it was a very exciting liturgy. Later on, Amba David came, and he did the official installation of the priest and asked for a survey of the congregational opinion. That was like maybe a couple of months later. Mm-hmm. And then since then, I've been serving in the Church of Archangel Raphael and St. John the Beloved. I know that the board members chose the name St. John the Beloved, and Bishop David asked us to add the name of the Archangel Raphael as the patron saints of the church. So as you see on the veil of the altar, we have the two. We have Archangel Raphael with Tubit, and then you have St. John the Beloved as the two patron saints of our beloved church. We have a congregation of a little over 100 families, and we have a whole week activities, liturgies, English and Arabic, and we serve the areas of Chapel Hill, Durham, Cary, Apex, and Morrisville.
Choice of the name, we were trying to go for a saying that was less utilized, if that is at all possible. So we chose names among a few saints that don't have that many churches named after them in the Coptic community. And one of them was St. John the Beloved. So Bishop David said, if you're choosing a saint who is not very known, how about using also an angel who doesn't have that many churches named after him? So we combined the two and became the Church of Archangel Raphael and St. John the Beloved. It causes a serious problem when you're writing checks in the name of the church, because the name is very long right now.
How about the space that we're in? How many acres are here?
This is about 21 acres of land.
It's a beautiful place. You can come here at any sunrise and sunset and enjoy that monastic setup. Everybody comes here says it feels like a monastic setup.
In about October, I guess, 2009, we fell under the episcopalship of Bishop Michael.
Yes.
And he came and asked us, would you have any ideas of when are you planning on leaving the mall and having a real church? So we started from that point on looking for land. I live only a few miles away from here, so I have known of this land, but I never told the board about it. I thought it would be very unfair for me to choose a piece of land that's very close to my house and the farthest from everybody else's. So I left it for about 6 months or 7 months until our board member, Dr. Joe Ibrahim, came and told me there's a piece of land, a beautiful piece in that area. And I told him I had known about it for so long. So he came and we loved it, and we bought it on the Feast of Transfiguration of the year 2010.
Great.
And then we decided, there was a debate at that time, how we should go about building the church. Should we do like every other church, send emailers all over the place, or obtain a mailing list of the Coptic community in North America and sending mailers to everybody asking for donations? And my idea was slightly different. I insisted on this idea, and thank God everybody accepted it, is that if you, for real, wanted a house for the Lord in your midst, you should sacrifice and build it. Don't rely on somebody else's sacrifice for that. We're not asking for money for the poor. We're asking for a house of worship for ourselves. So if we're not planning, like I figured 30 families donating enough money, they could build a church.
Right.
And it actually happened with very little loans, and we did the architectural work with help, and it was built in a very short period of time by November 2012, as Abuna mentioned before, we had this beautiful building.
We have good relationship. The board and the priest have a very good relationship. And the Church of Archangel Raphael and St. John has a great relationship with St. Mary's in Raleigh. We serve together. And I remember Buna Misail, the priest in St. Mary's, and I had a great agreement since I came that we should have a unified service so that whatever we do is in harmony and never in competition. So that we have different activities, but they're all coordinated. So if he has a liturgy on Friday, I have my liturgy on Thursday. If he has a liturgy on Saturday, I do a liturgy on the Thursday that he doesn't pray, something like that. Whenever we have funerals or marriages, we come to each other. So the congregation see the priest in complete harmony and love, and we try to keep it this way.
And if I may add to that, when Father Marcus Habib, who started this church, first arrived, he prayed Wednesdays and Sundays in the Virgin Mary Church, St. Mary's Church in Raleigh. So we prayed on Saturdays so he could pray and help with the liturgy in St. Mary's on Sundays and on Wednesdays.
Thank you, and may God bless all.